Hey guys, welcome to Lesson 9, representing proportional relationships with equations. Let's do example 1. Jackson's birdhouses. Jackson and his grandfather constructed a model for a birdhouse. Many of their neighbors offered to buy the birdhouses. Jackson decided that building birdhouses could help him earn money for his summer camp, but he's not sure how long it'll take him to finish all of the requests for the birdhouses. Why did I add the word "the" there? My bad. If Jackson can build 7 birdhouses in 5 hours, write an equation that will allow Jackson to calculate the time it will take him to build any given number of birdhouses, assuming he works at a constant rate. A says, write an equation that you could use to find out how long it will take him to build any number of birdhouses. So the first thing we need to do here is set up some variables. So remember, variables are letters that take the place of a number. And they can change. So variable means changing. So in mathematics, variables are letters that are placeholders for numbers. This is something that you should have written down in either the previous lesson or the lesson before that. So we're going to say B is equal to the number of birdhouses, and H is equal to the number of hours it takes for him to work. So we know that he can build 7 birdhouses in 5 hours. So we're going to set up this proportion here, or this ratio here, as 7 to 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out, okay, well, if we know this, right, then we know that he can make, in 5 hours, he can make 7 birdhouses. So what we need to do is calculate here some number that we can multiply to go from one thing to the other. That's obviously the constant of proportionality, and rather than writing it as a decimal here, I'm just going to write it as a fraction, 5 over 7. So 5 is going to be hours, and 7 is the number of birdhouses. So what I can do here is kind of working backwards. So if 5 is the number of hours, I can say that H, so this isn't really equal, so I'm going to make a little arrow thing. H, the number of hours, is equal to 5/7 times the number of birdhouses. B. So I didn't put parentheses there because if I have a variable, I can just write like the number right next to the letter. But this means 5/7 times B, or 5/7 times the number of birdhouses. So C, what I did here was figure out, okay, well, I knew that in 5 hours he could build 7 birdhouses. So I take this ratio, figure out which way I need to write it in here, so that I can get an equation that works. I could also do this. The number of birdhouses is equal to 7/5 times the number of hours. Right? Both of these are good. Both of these do the exact same thing. If I plugged in hours, if he worked for 5 hours, he would have 7 birdhouses. So I can plug, these things are the same thing. They're the same, great. Okay. B, how many birdhouses can Jackson build in 40 hours? How many birdhouses can Jackson build in 40 hours? So what we want to do is pick one of our equations. I'm going to pick this one because then I can just do some straight up math. So the number of birdhouses is going to equal 7/5 the hours. I know that 40 hours is what I'm going to plug in for H. So in this situation, H is equal to 40, and we know this from the problem. I'm then going to plug it in. B equals 7 over 5. And when you're replacing a variable with a letter, you normally just put parentheses around it to let them know, them or us or you, anybody, any pronoun really. You let pronoun know that 7 over 5 times 40 is what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and do this. Well, 40 divided by 5 is 8. So now what I'm going to have is 7 times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. So in 40 hours, he can build 56 birdhouses. So in this case, B is equal to 56. So in 40 hours, he can build 56 birdhouses. C, how long will it take Jackson to build 35 birdhouses? Use the equation from part A to solve the problem. Well, we made 2 equations in part A, so let's pick the one that's the most useful. How long will it take Jackson to build 35 birdhouses? So what we want to do is figure out how many hours it's going to take, right? So let's set that h by itself. H is equal to, we're going to use this equation here. H is equal to 5 over 7 b. 5 over 7 times b. He wants to build 35 birdhouses. So before we even do anything in here, what we need to know is that if for some reason, like for example, in this problem, we're just plugging in hours, right? If we plugged in like 41 hours, we would end up with a decimal like for the number of birdhouses, and that doesn't make sense because you can't, I mean, you could have half a birdhouse, but like nobody's going to want to buy that. So just make sure when you're doing problems like this that you're not ending up with like half a birdhouse, or I sold him 3/4 of a birdhouse. Like that's not really realistic. So just make sure that your answers make sense realistically. Okay, anyways, so how long will it take Jackson to build 35 birdhouses? Use the equation. So we're going to use this equation, and we're going to say that B is equal to 35. So now what we can do is plug that directly into this problem. H equals 5/7 times 35. Okay, well, 35 divided by 7 is 5. So these go to 5. So now we have 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So it's going to take him 25 hours to build 35 birdhouses. D. How long will it take to build 71 birdhouses? Use the equation from part A to solve the problem. All right, let's use this equation also because it makes the most sense. We're trying to figure out hours, right? So hours is equal to 5/7 times the number of birdhouses. So what we're going to do is plug in 71 for B. So B equals 71. We're going to set up our equation. H is equal to 5 over 7 times 71. All right, so 71 and 7 don't work together so nicely. So we're going to have to do some actual computations. And by actual computations, I mean I'm going to cheat and use a calculator. So 5/7 times 71, okay, is 50.71 equals 50.71. So that means it takes him 50 hours and then 0.71 of an hour. So let's actually figure out what that is. 0.71 times 60 is 42 minutes, 42.6 minutes. So we're going to round up and say approximately 50 hours. What was that? And 43 minutes. So this symbol here, it's like an equal sign, but it's squiggly. That means approximate. It's you can see the symbol above the whiteboard in my classroom. So it takes him approximately 50 hours and 43 minutes to build 71 birdhouses. So the actual calculation was whatever we did before. Oh, it disappeared. I'll rewind the video. This is what H is equal to, approximately. Okay, I'm not going to do example 2. If you have any questions about what was going on in this video, please ask me in class. Okay, bye.